Welcome back to Property Playbook. We're your hosts, Elena Saradidis.
And Erica Reddy-Choquette.
And today we're talking all things renovation. When do you know to renovate? When do you know to hold? When do you know to invest in a different kind of property? So let's start with you because you are doing your renovation right now and you already know I kind of do 1 to 2 a year.
Yes.
So we'll start off with you because this is a new and exciting thing.
Yes. We're in the thick of it, the thick of renovating. And I think, oh my gosh, I think there's a few things to keep in mind when renovating. One is cosmetic renovations are amazing. Like they can do wonders for a property, but they can also very quickly snowball. And so I was actually having this conversation with clients actually at your broker open the other day up on the island. And they were kind of looking at a house going, okay, I think we can see ourselves in this house for 5 years before we do a major renovation. And I was like, whew, that's probably the hardest renovation to do because when you're looking at something in the short term, knowing you then have a long-term renovation to follow it, you're almost going to be spending good money after bad because almost whatever you do, you're going to get rid of. And they were kind of like, wow, this massively changed our perspective. And so I think when starting with a renovation, number one is establish what the renovation is. Number two is establish how long you plan to have the property in that present state. And then what are costs looking like? And costs, I would say, frankly, are going to be way more than you think they're going to be. That's my honest opinion. And that's going through quotes and massive spreads in quotes that we've seen. But I think if you're going to try, like if you're living in a house, for example, and you're like, oh, I don't know, I kind of feel like I want a new kitchen or I'm a bit frustrated with my bathroom. My biggest piece of advice is start with paint. Paint does wonders.
Oh, we're going to have a lot of conflicts on this show today. I love you, Erica.
Why would you not start with paint?
Okay, I get the whole paint thing, but if I'm sitting in a house and I'm like, I need to change my kitchen, there's a reason why I'm changing my kitchen. It looks like grandma's house.
But not always.
Not always, yes, you're right. But it depends on the situation. Maybe it's paint that's needed. But my advice to all my clients is if you're going to do renos, and this is like speaking from experience, I've done this a billion times now. It's actually exhausting. When you do it all together. Because
sure.
It's more expensive to bring someone back in to do the tiling in the bathroom now that you brought the tiling for the kitchen 2 years ago. Now that you've done this, like you need to be strategic, make a list. And I'm going to see one of my clients tonight about this. I'm making them make a list of every single thing they want to do to this property.
Yeah.
Their closing date is not yet. The contractors are coming in on today's visit.
Yeah.
And during that visit, we're going to walk through every single thing that they want to do. They're going to get a quote. They're going to know timeline before they even get the key. So they can figure out, do we want to do this now or do we want to do this later? Mm-hmm. And my advisement always is if you have the means to do it now and enjoy it for yourself. Because odds are you're going to sell it or you're going to tenant it later on in the future. Yeah. And when you go to do that, you don't want someone else to enjoy a house you didn't even get to enjoy.
And that, I could not agree with you more. I cannot tell you, and I know you do this too, and you get this all the time, the number of times you get a house ready for market and the client literally says, I should have done all of this sooner. And so I think that's where I say, like, listen, there's so many things you can do that aren't crazy expensive, that aren't gonna like absolutely break the bank. And that's why I say, like, listen, the kitchen that we have right now is 12, 13 years old. There's nothing wrong with the physical kitchen, but the color is not my palette. The hardware was the furthest thing from my palette. But honestly, changing the kitchen and putting the new hardware on, it's like a brand new kitchen. And I could have completely lived with the kitchen as it was, but the enjoyment that the kitchen is going to give me now that we've taken it from kind of a blue-gray to white is exponential. But I also feel it's completely transformed and changed the space. And so this is why I say, yes, if it's like grandma's kitchen, obviously paint isn't going to make grandma's kitchen not look like grandma's kitchen anymore. But I mean, I took what was an incredibly trendy kitchen 12, 13 years ago, both the color palette and the hardware, and went, not today's style. Paint, new hardware. It's literally a new kitchen. Tweak the backsplash ever so slightly. I mean, I wish we could have before and afters. It's my old house. But I just think there's so much to be done with that kind of a small investment. And so if somebody's feeling just tired and like my house is a bit outdated, the number of times we paint a house top to bottom before we put it on market and it looks brand new, that's not crazy hard. It takes commitment and time and organization and it's a headache and a hassle, but you could literally be living in a new home for way less money than it would cost to move.
And the funny thing is like real estate, there's a blueprint to this. When we go to sell, it's the exact same blueprint we all follow.
Absolutely.
If you do it the right way, which is why it costs us so much money.
Totally.
We're going to paint the whole entire property, and it's usually white. That's the thing.
100%.
If the kitchen is like wooden and a little older and whatever, and we don't want to do a full replacement because we're just selling it, so we're trying to maximize your profit, we're painting the kitchen, we're changing the hardware, we're changing all the light fixtures in the property, we're changing all the door handles in the property, and guess what? It's gonna look so different. And then all you have to do in the bathroom, if the vanity is an old dated bathroom, change the vanity. It's a very easy, cheap flip. Change the mirror for the bathroom and change the light in the bathroom. And it's like
totally
MTV hooked up my crib. Yeah. And people walk in after it's staged and they're like, oh my God, why didn't we live in it like this?
Totally.
And all I did was 3 steps. And let me tell you, Amazon did all of the steps for me, delivered it straight to the property. My handyman installed and painted, and that was it.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, I mean, you can find, you know, a light fixture for thousands of dollars, and you can find a light fixture for a couple $100. I mean, the world is your oyster, but you can get almost the same, you know, end result spending a couple hundred versus a couple thousand on a fixture, and it will change and elevate that room. And I think sometimes people just get used to what's in their spaces, and so they're not changing out the fixtures or changing out the hardware or, you know, doing the changes that we do when we go and list almost every single thing. And so why not take the approach of I'm not selling, but I'm selling from a renovation standpoint, and do those little things that make it night and day. I mean, you're never going to lose money if you sink it into the kitchen. You're never going to lose money if you sink it into the bathrooms.
Okay, but within reason.
Okay. Well,
because let me tell you,
fair.
sometimes,
Disclaimer.
And I always tell people, call me. Like, it's never a problem.
Yes.
I'm happy to share trades, but call me. Because if someone tells me they spent X amount on a kitchen and I'm like, oh my gosh, how?
Yeah.
Or they spent X amount on flooring, I'm like, I have a floor person. Or like, it drives me crazy because I'm like, it does cut into your bottom line.
Yes.
If you spent too much money on these things, and there is such thing as spending too much money on renovations and not renovating the right things.
The other thing on that, and I think to your point, you're absolutely right. Speaking to flooring and products, is I think the other thing too is like, get to know what's current today. Because I think, for example, perfect thing, vinyl flooring. Everybody like rolls their eyes like, holy, who would ever install it? It's come such a long way. Not saying you put vinyl top to bottom, but if you're going to be doing your basement and you're talking vinyl or carpet and you're going to spend the same amount of money, vinyl is going to give you a much better result, and frankly makes way more sense in a basement than a carpet that could absorb moisture. But if you don't know your product,
can I just say
what? Don't
vinyl everything. Vinyl everything.
Okay, or you can put vinyl top to bottom.
I don't even care. Let me tell you why I'm saying vinyl everything. You're living in the space. Vinyl has come so far. You can get vinyl herringbone floors. Like, they've come so far. They don't even look like they're vinyl. Come into my house, I've got vinyl. Do you know why? The cost was more effective, and they're almost damage fully proof. People are running in and out. We're moving furniture. If people's pets come over, if things like, our floors aren't damaged, and they're a couple years old.
But this is the whole thing. If you
get hardwood floors and tell me if your hardwood floors are damaged after a year or 2 years or 3 years, they're gonna have scratches, they're gonna have marks, and you spent so much more money on it. You did so much more install on it. Yes, you can sand it and restain it, definitely. But even when you sand and restain, because I have houses that have hardwood, they will scratch up again, and you will keep having to do it. So I am all for the vinyl flooring. Mm-hmm. I have nothing against vinyl.
Me
I
neither.
actually think it's the smartest thing to do if you're renovating your home. Get a good piece of vinyl, run it through the whole entire house. It looks like hardwood. You can get the really nice kind for a quarter of the price.
Well, and this is the thing, right? This is what I'm saying,
and
back to your point.
Forever.
And same with porcelain tiles. Porcelain tiles have come leaps and bounds. But I feel like if you say to somebody, put porcelain down, they're like, oh, excuse me, porcelain. But this is...
Come talk to me. I'll tell you to put it down. And I'll tell you exactly why. Damage proof.
But they also look great.
But I don't want to have to redo my reno in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I'm not going to sink in this amount of money to have to redo it.
Yeah.
So if you see any of my investment properties, it's a plug and play system. I have the exact same flooring. It's vinyl. It's a beautiful color, but it stands the test of time. Any year, any background, it will always look brand new. It will always look shiny. It will always look up to the current market. The same thing with all my bathrooms. They all have porcelain. Why? Tenant proof, damage proof. I don't want to see a tile break in a year from now and me having to replace it. Like, I'm not interested in that. I want to do a good, solid reno that's going to stand the test of time. And in the future, if I plan to do anything with that property, I'm solid. I don't have to touch it.
Oh yeah. And this is where I really say, like, listen, if you're feeling just a bit down and out, you want to see a change, you want to see an upgrade, you want to see, you know, your house kind of transformed, again, like we said, don't wait till you go to sell, but also realize that like the sky is the limit when it comes to options now that are available to you and things that you can do for way less than I think you would think you could do them. And so yes, definitely a lot of this is who you know, trades, contractors, etc. And the amount of, the amount of legwork and time that you would like to invest. I feel like I literally say to people, I have a full-time job in renovating right now, a full-time job in this real estate business, a full-time job in being a parent, and a spouse. Like I am maxed out on
your full-time job.
Full-time job.
Okay, you touched on something very important. People don't believe that it's as cheap as it actually is to do renovations. So one of the talents that I bring to my clients is because I've done so many of these, I can basically quote on hand. So if they're like, I want to do new flooring, or I've always debated doing new flooring, but I don't know how much it's going to cost me. I'm like, this is exactly how much it's going to cost you. Do the math. How much square footage? This is what it's going to cost you. This is the total. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, that's as much. Okay, the bathroom we want to do X, Y, Z. And I'm like, to do a bathroom, it costs you between this and this much. Like that's it.
Yeah.
It's simple, plug and play. And they'll be like, wait, we can do the floors, we can do the bathrooms, we can do the kitchen, we can do all of this, and we can be all under this amount of money. And I'll be like, yes. They're like, oh my God, that's in budget. I go, yeah, it is in budget.
Yeah.
You can do it all. I'm like, do you want me to bring you 3 trades to quote you out? Like this is around where the quote should fall.
Yeah.
And they'll fall a little less or they'll fall a little more,
Yeah.
but I always try and overestimate. And I tell my clients I'm doing that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think it's going to cost X, but I'm going to tell you to budget Y. Because you always have to leave a little for, we opened up the walls and there was no insulation.
That or just scope creep. I mean, I'm sitting here, listen, I was like, I am not going to be the person that has any scope creep. I do this all the time. And here we are. And I'm like, what about this?
You know
What
you're
about
going
that?
to do it
What
all.
about
Don't
this?
lie.
No, I thought
Don't
I could.
lie.
I thought I could,
Oh my
know.
God. No, Erica, I know you. You opened up the walls and you said, well, why don't we just do this too? And then it kept snowballing because we all do this.
Yes.
We start the reno and we're like, the contractors are already here. It's going to cost me X amount if they do it now,
Yeah.
or it's going to cost me Y in the future.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't I do it now if I have the means to do it now? And you're going to do it because it's logical to do it.
Yes. But I mean, more what I'm saying to my poor husband every time is like, please remember the budget. I'm like, yes. I remember the budget. Got it.
Erica's like, I doubled the budget and then I added tax.
Like, please don't tally this at the end and please don't watch this. But no,
I'm so sending this to Graham. Like he's getting a copy. Then we have to go back to another conversation because we're talking about renovating to live in it and the small improvements that you could do to your home to actually enjoy it, as opposed to just trading your home in because you don't like something about the house. And it is the cheaper option, and a lot more people are choosing to renovate their homes and staying in it rather than to sell it and move into something else that's fully renovated. And land transfer tax is a thing. You got to keep that into consideration when
Costs
you're
of moving are crazy.
Exactly.
Crazy.
And also the cost of like every house is not going to be perfect. You're going to have to do work in any house that you buy.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind. But when we're looking to buy a property, and this goes down the scale, first time buyer, seasoned investor, end user home, I do the exact same, like plug and play. If you're buying a property, it's price, it's location, and it's must-have list.
Yeah.
So pick 2 out of the 3 because we can't change everything, or we don't. No one gets everything on that list. So price point cannot change. Location, though, how important is that? Everyone says location, location, location. Pick the location you really want to be in. Get into the property that you can afford in that location. Because guess what? The must-have list can all be renovated into it.
Absolutely. And I mean, listen, I cannot tell you how many times clients have been in a home and like, I like everything but the floors. And I'm like, no problem. To your point, let's look at, kind of worst case, best case, price per foot. Let's look at the square footage. Let's do the math. And they're like, oh, that's all it would take to get new floors and have this house feel exactly the way I want it to? Yeah, it is. And so this is where I think cosmetic renos, whether you're in it and you're just tired of it, or trying to buy and kind of going, okay, to your point, I'm really trying to like get this and that and this and that on my must-have list. Focus on the things that you cannot change. Once you buy your house, you can't pick it up and move it. It's in its location. So focus on the really important things and then understand the cosmetic things that you can do to really make it yours. And those might be right when you move in, or those might be in 5 years. But that plan can always be established.
So, and the other thing to take into consideration too, because I work with a lot of clients that do massive renovations because they know I'm so comfortable with it. So they kind of lean on me a lot. When we budget how much they're purchasing the property for, how much the renovation is going to cost for, please make sure to calculate in this calculation, if you can't live in the house, your mortgage payments per month as you're carrying it until you can move into it. Because then you're carrying 2 properties, wherever you're currently living in, because you know you and your family have to live somewhere, and the property that you're renovating. And whatever time frame that they give you, add a little bit extra buffer room because you don't know what will happen. So make sure that you have enough to be able to sustain the renovation and you living somewhere else, or make sure you fully comprehend what it's like to live through a reno.
I don't recommend it.
Are you doing it now? Are you living through it? No. Okay, I've done it both ways.
I mean, listen, you can do it both ways. I think the way I say I don't recommend it, it depends. I mean, listen, could we be living through our renovation right now? We could. Having said that, are the trades 10 times more efficient right now because we are not there and everybody can come, go as they please and stagger the floors and there's no furniture to cover and nothing to worry about and we're doing the floors last so like we can paint and this? Yes. Could we live there and would it be chaos? 100%.
Okay. Double-edged sword here. The trade's more efficient. How often are you checking on your trades?
Twice, if not 3 times a day.
So that's the key to the puzzle.
This is why this is my other full-time job.
If you're not going to live in the property, you have to be on top of your trades. Like, it's the biggest takeaway here is being on top of your trades.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they will tell you they will show up at 6 a.m. And my trade people are going to hate me for saying this. I actually have fantastic trades right now. But I've gone through a boatload of people that have worked on houses for me throughout time. The trades showing up on time and leaving early, all the time. I'm like, I showed up. You guys said 6 a.m. I was there at 7. There was no one there, so don't know what's happening. Mm-hmm. The amount of messages they get from me being like, who's at the house? Mm-hmm. Is anyone there? Has the work started?
I think too, I think timing for sure. And listen, I feel incredibly fortunate. I have amazing people that I'm working with. And so I don't need to be breathing down their neck. So yes, definitely who you hire is a big part of it.
You went 3 times a week, but 3 times a day, you are breathing down their neck.
9 times out of 10, truthfully, the 3 times a day is because we're making a lot of really game time decisions. We're making stuff's coming in and they're like, do you want the tile this way or that way? Do you want this space or that space? Or do you want the light fixture here or there? We're not doing everything on, because this unfolded really quickly. We don't have blueprints for everything. So a lot of it is I'm there to run through 6 decisions. Great, they've been made. I'll be back in 3-4 hours. We'll run through 5 more decisions. It's really not a just checking on everybody. How are we doing? Surprise. It's okay, good. Everyone's good. Everyone's got their decisions made. Perfect. I'll see you back at the end of the day. But I do agree. You need to be on top of things because there's nothing worse than maybe communicating something. The light fixture gets installed in, call it the center of the room, and you wanted it off center, and you get there, and by the time it's there, it's been patched and mudded and this and that and painted, and then you tear the ceiling apart and move the fixture, and that costs you 3 times.
If they do it without my permission, you best believe they're changing it back.
It happens.
That's why you do the 5 to 6, all of this stuff before you start doing it 3 times a week. Because I need to make sure that what's getting done, my finished product, is going to allow me to do what I need to do to that property. Yeah. Whether it's live in it, whether it's sell it, whether it's lease it out, I need to make sure what's done is done.
Yeah.
So I have a client right now. They bought a property. They bought a reno project, and they didn't want to do a reno.
It's an interesting buy.
It's in the best location.
Fair.
It's well below budget. And their scare was, how much money is this going to cost me to fix?
A lot.
Okay, but
it's true.
What did I say? Under budget in a fantastic neighborhood.
I love your justification. It's still going to cost you a lot, but
no, it will. But this is the thing. If it was renovated, if it was fully renovated, could they afford it? And the answer is no.
Right.
They would not have been able to get into that pocket. Could they afford the reno though? Yes. Could they afford the reno with my tradespeople? Yes, times 10. So my trades are actually starting. We closed on it yesterday. My trades are starting on it on the 1st of the month. I know it's a holiday. We're starting. They're going to start renovating. Yeah. And they already sent me all their Pinterest boards. I'm their general contractor now. Apparently I wear a lot of hats. Real estate wasn't enough for me. I'm now a general contractor. So I've now been property managing for them as well. We already have the blueprints. We know when everyone's coming in. They told me exactly what they like. I sent them to the people that I need them to send them to. They know exactly what they're doing. But it's learn from our mistakes because we've made 1 billion. No one.
I'm still making them. I'm doing it for I don't know how many times now and whatever. And I'm still oh, whoops. Yeah, thought about that after the fact. Totally opening that up again. Sorry that you patched and painted. Now we're going to repatch and paint. I mean, listen, I'm the furthest thing from perfect. I will admit that.
The more you do them, the more mistakes you get through, and the faster. And it's the same as real estate. Yeah. The more mistakes, the more you fall on your face, the more things that you do, the more you learn. So for them, this has been oh wait, it's done. Oh wait, you got the 3 quotes. Oh wait, it's cheaper than I thought it was. And you negotiated. I even handled the negotiation with the trades, the payment plans with the trades. Like
before you know it, we're going to be getting nothing but inquiries on how to manage renovations. This really is meant to be
how to renovate. Yeah. So I did all that for them, and they were like, oh my God, so renos aren't that hard? And I was like, we haven't even started yet. Wait for them to open up a wall, and then we'll see how hard it gets. Yeah. But I'm like, the whole point of this is don't be stressed about it and lean on me because I've gone through it. So when they call and say, do you want us to change this or do you want us to do this? Just call me quickly and say, is it worth us doing it? Or is it worth us not to do it? For those that
can't call you because you're not their project manager, I think
don't call me if I'm not your project manager.
But I think the big thing really is look at the little stuff. Look at what's going to make the biggest impact. Also look at what's driving you absolutely crazy in a property. Is it the floor? Is it the color? Is it the fixtures? And figure out how you can kind of fix or change or renovate those things, because I would really, in my heart of hearts, believe that some of these changes aren't as hard as you might think that they are and aren't as expensive or impossible. And the enjoyment that they're going to give you is exponential. So don't fret if you can't hire our lovely project manager over here that's selling her services.
Okay, but
I'm kidding. I know you're not.
My thing is this too, like keep in mind the renos that you're doing. When you do the renovations, what is your long-term goals? And if you're going to personalize it too much or go with the current trends too much or go a little too wild, no, it will have implications when you go to sell. Yeah. You can make the most amazing kitchen known to man. It's only your taste though. And you could think everyone's going to fall in love with this kitchen. I saw a property a few weeks ago with a client of mine. The property was priced over $3 million. We go into the property, the listing agent's present because of the price point we were at. And my clients walked out and said, we absolutely hate that kitchen. Yeah. And we're going to need to rip it out. No word of a lie. The listing agent spent 10 minutes explaining to us how state-of-the-art this kitchen is.
100%.
How much all of this opens with a hand wave, how incredible this place is. And my client's first thing was, we're ripping it out.
Yeah. No, and there's places where you can go bananas and overspend. And so I think it really is figure out what is timeless, and listen, if you want to go crazy, you can. It's your house. But just understand what people are willing to pay for. And listen, it's not hard to figure out what kind of the present or trending trends are. I mean, the beauty of the internet, Pinterest, anything. You can literally type it into any app and, trending bathrooms. Is it Scandinavian modern? Is it this? Is it minimalist? Is it whatever? Like, you can find it out there and you can figure out what works and melds in your taste. You can look at the houses that have recently sold in your neighborhood and see what is consistently trending. But I would just say, if there's something that pains you that you want to change it. Because the joy I am getting over some of these little cosmetic changes, I cannot tell you how happy they are making me, and we're not even done.
And my other piece of advice, which if you haven't gotten it throughout this whole entire episode, because I'm summing it up right now.
Yes, I'm ready for your summary.
Feel free to consult your real estate agent. It doesn't matter if you're holding onto the property, if you're planning to sell the property, if it's an investment property, consult us. And the reason why I say this is because we've been through everyone's houses. We know what layouts work, what layouts don't work. We know what buyers are falling in love with and what they're not. And if you're going to spend this kind of money, you want to see a return. Why wouldn't you lean on us to get that return on investment long term?
Yes, I actually think that's a great summary, and nothing gives me more joy than getting a call from a client that's like, I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, I am so happy you called me. I love that, and let's talk about it. So I think that's an amazing point.
Well, once again, it's Elena Saradidis.
And Erica Reddy-Choquette.
And this was Property Playbook. If you like content like this, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe.